Do you know what's even harder than becoming wealthy? Staying wealthy. Sounds counterintuitive. Most of us assume that once you've made your money, the rest is just about enjoying it in style. But reality is much harsher. Most wealthy families lose their fortune within 3 generations. The first generation works hard to build wealth. The second preserves it. The third usually spends it all. History has repeated this cycle more times than we can count. Let's look at 2 different paths. On the one hand, there are celebrities like Mike Tyson, who earned over $300 million but filed for bankruptcy just a few years later due to reckless spending and zero financial planning, or MC Hammer, one of the biggest rappers of the 90s who made tens of millions but went broke supporting an entourage of over 200 people. On the other hand, there are families like the Kennedys or the Waltons, founders of Walmart, who've managed to preserve their wealth for generations, despite wars, market crashes, political shifts, and economic upheaval. So what makes the difference? Truly wealthy individuals understand this. Preserving wealth requires a long-term strategy. It's not just about earning a lot and leaving the money in the bank, because cash is fragile. A financial crisis, government policy change, or even high inflation can erode your wealth faster than you can rebuild it. Stocks can go to zero, bank accounts can be frozen, and currencies, if trust collapses, they can become worthless overnight. That's why the wealthy, often called old money, never just hold cash. They hold assets, assets that retain and often increase in value over time, regardless of economic, political, or technological volatility. And most importantly, they don't just preserve wealth for themselves. They preserve it to pass it on to the next generation and the one after that. I used to think that getting rich was the ultimate goal, but then I realized if you don't know how to keep it, you'll always just be someone who used to have money. And life doesn't reward those who don't think long-term. So the question is, what are the 7 assets that help the wealthy preserve wealth forever? Let's uncover them right now. If you've ever considered protecting your wealth long-term, real estate is the first brick in the foundation of lasting wealth. And this isn't just theory. Look closely at truly wealthy people, and you'll notice that most of them own land, not to show off, but to preserve value. Take Oprah Winfrey, one of the wealthiest and most influential black women in America. Few people realize that beyond her media empire, she owns dozens of properties across the US, including a 70-acre estate in Montecito, California, where real estate prices have nearly doubled in the past decade. Oprah doesn't buy homes just for fun. She buys because she understands a simple truth. Land can't be created, making it increasingly scarce. Here's what I've come to realize. Real estate isn't just about buying to invest. It's one of humanity's oldest stores of value. When stocks crash, currencies devalue, or the economy wobbles, the land remains. It can't be hacked. It can't be printed like money, and it's almost immune to short-term political or financial manipulation. But more than just storing value, real estate can also produce. A piece of land can generate rental income, be appreciated over time, or be repurposed for different uses. And the wealthy know how to diversify their holdings: prime residential properties to capture appreciation, agricultural land for long-term supply stability, commercial buildings and office spaces to generate consistent cash flow. Another example is Ellen DeGeneres, a household name in Hollywood. She's known for her talk show and her pattern of buying, renovating, and reselling homes, often making millions in profit with each deal. But she's not just flipping for fun. She studies the market, chooses strategic locations, and operates with a multi-year vision. My personal belief: you don't need to be a millionaire to get started. Even a small plot of land, if chosen wisely, can become a value vault over time. As long as you stop thinking of real estate just as a place to live, start seeing it as a tool for long-term wealth preservation, and you're on the right track. The rich don't ask, "How much can I make from this property this year?" They ask, How will this asset protect my capital and grow in value over the next 10 to 20 years? And that's precisely why real estate remains at the top of the list of assets the wealthy use to preserve their wealth for generations. The truly wealthy don't play the stock market. They own businesses through stocks. This was something I misunderstood for years. Buying stocks meant betting on a price going up, but the rich don't gamble like that. They buy stocks like you'd buy a piece of a money-printing machine, reliable, consistent, and built to last. Take LeBron James as an example. He's not just a basketball legend, but a strategic investor. LeBron bought equity in Blaze Pizza, now the fastest-growing pizza chain in America, while it was still in its early stages. That initial investment of a few $100,000 multiplied more than 40 times. But he didn't stop there. He also invested in Apple stock, Beats Electronics, before Apple acquired it, and even Fenway Sports Group, the parent company of Liverpool FC. LeBron's approach to investing shows a classic old money mindset. Choose companies built to last decades, not temporary market hype. He doesn't chase the fastest rising stocks. He picks companies with everyday products, strong cash flow, solid proven leadership. That's why blue chip stocks like Apple, Microsoft, Johnson & Johnson, or JP Morgan are favorites among the wealthy. They don't just offer long-term appreciation, they pay steady dividends too. I'll admit, I used to chase short-term trades, dreaming of stocks that could 2x or 3x in a few months. But over time I learned protecting wealth is far more valuable than doubling it and losing everything. And blue-chip stocks provide that kind of protection. The wealthy don't buy stocks to get rich quick. They buy to stay rich longer. They choose businesses that make essentials, tech, healthcare, finance, energy, food, industries that survive war, recession, or political chaos, because people always need them. Remember, a stock isn't just a ticker symbol, it's ownership in a wealth-generating machine. And the wealthy stand behind machines that have stood the test of time. So, if you want your money to keep working even while you sleep, blue chip stocks are the most sustainable place to begin. There's one type of asset that no bank can manage, no government can tax, and no one can ever take away from you. That asset is education and knowledge. I know it may sound like a cliché, but if you look at the journey of those who've built lasting wealth, you'll realize something important. Their starting point was never money. It was understanding. Take Elon Musk, one of the most brilliant entrepreneurs in modern America. Most people don't know that Musk never studied rocket science or automotive engineering. What he did have was an extraordinary ability to learn. He read voraciously, taught himself physics and aerospace, and built SpaceX, a company that the aerospace industry once laughed at. But today, NASA is a client. Elon once said, "I read books all day when I was a kid. If you're knowledgeable enough, you can do anything." And I've never forgotten that. The wealthy understand one truth: opportunities don't belong to the uninformed. Yes, you can win the lottery and become a millionaire overnight. But if you don't know how to manage money, protect your assets, invest wisely, or make sound decisions, you'll soon find yourself right back where you started. Over 70% of lottery winners in the US go bankrupt within 5 years. I once watched a friend build a booming business, only to lose it all. He ignored personal finance, spent recklessly, didn't understand taxes, and made poor investment choices. A few years later, he had to sell his house to pay off debt. On the other hand, I know someone who started from scratch, literally with nothing, but he committed to learning. From mastering Excel to understanding financial statements, now he runs a small business generating 7 figures in annual profit. Education isn't just found in textbooks or classrooms. It lives in critical thinking, lifelong curiosity, and the ability to adapt. Knowledge is a survival tool in a world where technology evolves yearly and economies shift constantly. Yes, the rich invest in real estate, stocks, and gold, but their most significant investment is in themselves. Because once you know how to think, you'll know how to act. And once you know how to act, no one can ever take away the wealth you've built inside. If there's one asset that has served as money, a wedding gift, a national reserve, and a symbol of royalty from ancient times to the modern day, it's gold. And in today's investment world, precious metals, especially gold and silver, still hold their ground as a financial haven for the wealthy. Take Ray Dalio, founder of Bridgewater Associates, one of the most significant hedge funds in the world. He's consistently emphasized the importance of holding some gold in your portfolio. Why? Not to get rich quick, but to hedge against systemic risk. When financial markets crash, currencies lose value, and inflation runs high, gold tends to hold its value or even surge. I remember the 2008 global financial crisis vividly. Stocks tanked, real estate froze. Many people lost everything, but those who already held gold stayed afloat. At that point, gold wasn't just an asset, but a lifeline. Unlike stocks or crypto, gold can't be hacked. It doesn't rely on the internet, and it can't be printed at will like paper currency. It's physical. It's globally recognized. History has proven that gold is a store of value that lasts for thousands of years. Silver may be mentioned less, but don't overlook it. Aside from being a precious metal, silver has massive industrial applications in electronics, solar energy, and even healthcare. When economies recover or tech advances rapidly, silver prices can spike. The wealthy know this. They don't just stack gold for safety. They hold silver for growth potential. I'll admit, when I first started building my portfolio, I ignored precious metals. I thought they were old school and didn't generate income. But after the 2020 pandemic, when markets went wild and money printing hit historic highs, I finally understood. Sometimes, protecting value matters more than chasing returns. Gold doesn't generate cash flow, but in times of chaos, it protects your peace of mind. And sometimes, that's worth more than any profit. Wealthy people don't buy gold to show off. They buy it for defense. Because if the day comes when everything collapses, precious metals might be the last asset that still holds real value. If gold is a physical haven, then government bonds are the financial equivalent, made of paper, but backed by the full faith and credit of an entire nation. You might wonder, why would rich people buy pieces of government debt when they could buy land, stocks, or invest in cutting-edge tech? The answer is simple. Wealthy people don't just know how to grow money, they know how to defend it. Take Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, and one of the wealthiest individuals on the planet. In a rare interview, he once shared that Amazon keeps such large reserves of cash and US government bonds that the company could operate for months, even without revenue. Why? Not because they don't know how to use money, but because they understand stability is the foundation for growth. Government bonds work straightforwardly. You lend money to the government, and over time, they pay you back with interest. The returns aren't high, but the safety is unmatched, mainly if you invest in bonds from economically stable countries like the US, Germany, or Japan. Honestly, I used to look down on this asset class. I thought, government bonds are for old people, not for someone young trying to make it fast like me. But my perspective shifted when I met a seasoned investor at our investment club. He said, when I was 30, I wanted to double my yearly net worth. But by 60, I only wanted not to lose half of it overnight. That one statement completely changed how I viewed bonds. In times of crisis, like the 2008 financial meltdown or the 2020 pandemic, stocks plunged, real estate tanked. But government bonds? They either held steady or even rose slightly. That's why truly wealthy individuals always keep a portion of their portfolio in bonds, to have a financial anchor when the rest of the market shakes. Here's the truth. You don't have to win big to become wealthy. Sometimes just not losing is already a massive advantage. Imagine this. A dusty old painting, just oil on canvas, worth tens of millions of dollars. A vintage wristwatch without GPS or Bluetooth is selling at auction for 10 times the price of a luxury apartment. To most people, that sounds like excess, But to the truly wealthy, it's a store of value. Take Oprah Winfrey, for example. She once bought a rare painting by Gustav Klimt for over $80 million and sold it a few years later for a $60 million profit. That wasn't just a matter of taste, it was a financial strategy. Oprah understood a powerful truth. When something is rare, irreplaceable, and culturally significant, its value compounds with time. And as the world produces more digital noise, the value of unique physical pieces grows stronger. Wealthy individuals don't just invest in what generates cash flow. They invest in stories and scarcity. A Picasso painting, a vintage Ferrari with only a few left in existence, the original Babe Ruth baseball card. What do they have in common? They're one of a kind, highly sought after, and backed by history. At one point, I used to think collecting was just a rich person's hobby. But then, I met an American entrepreneur who has been collecting limited edition sneakers since college. Years later, his sneaker collection was valued at over $1 million, especially after Nike launched an NFT line tied to physical pairs. He told me something I'll never forget. Assets aren't just things that make money. They're things other people are willing to pay for because they tell a story they want to own. And that's the core of fine art and collectibles, emotional assets that hold financial value. You can't reprint a 1940s Patek Philippe. You can't recreate a Jackson Pollock original, and that's why these pieces are considered safe havens of the ultra-wealthy, even without paying dividends. Of course, not everyone has the money to buy million-dollar paintings, but the principle remains true. Scarcity plus emotion plus time equals value. If you know how to spot the right pieces, whether it's artwork, classic cars, rare watches, or even vintage stamps, you could be quietly building one of the most timeless asset classes the wealthy use to preserve wealth across generations. Among all the assets the wealthy use to preserve value, none is more controversial than cryptocurrency. To some, it's the future of money. To others, it's a bubble waiting to burst. But whether you love it or hate it, the rich aren't ignoring it. Take Mark Cuban, tech billionaire and star investor on Shark Tank. He admitted buying Ethereum early on, not just to speculate, but because he believed in the power of decentralized finance. For Cuban, crypto wasn't just an investment. It was part of a new financial infrastructure where people could control their wealth without needing a bank or a government. I used to think crypto was just digital gambling, especially after watching Bitcoin crash in 2022. But then I read that Fidelity, one of the largest financial institutions in the US, had quietly started offering Bitcoin custody for high-net-worth clients. That's when it hit me. If the most cautious, wealthiest players are quietly entering, then this is no longer just a tech bro trend. Crypto shares a key trait with gold: limited supply and resistance to manipulation. For example, there will only ever be 21 million bitcoins, no more, no less. No central bank can print more. No politician can devalue it with the stroke of a pen. That's why many now call Bitcoin digital gold. In a world where inflation is the new normal, owning an asset that can't be printed into oblivion is a powerful form of protection. Of course, crypto isn't for everyone. It's volatile, it's unregulated, and it's still young. But that's precisely why those with long-term vision and a higher risk tolerance quietly allocate a portion of their portfolio to it. Not to get rich overnight, but to build an escape hatch in case the old system breaks. Because when you have $100, you hold cash. But when you have $100 million, you think about systemic risk. And that's why increasingly wealthy individuals, from Elon Musk, Jack Dorsey to ARK Invest, all have crypto portfolios. You don't have to be a billionaire to learn this lesson. You have to look beyond your current bank balance and start thinking about where your money will be safe in the future. We've just explored 7 powerful asset classes that the truly wealthy use, not just to grow wealth, but to preserve it for generations. Real estate, blue-chip stocks, education and knowledge, precious metals, government bonds, fine art and collectibles, and even cryptocurrency. Each one holds a timeless value that cash alone can't match. Wealthy people don't stash money in a vault, they hold assets, and not just any assets, but the kind that can withstand inflation, crisis, political change, and technological disruption. They understand this fundamental truth. Money can lose value. Assets hold it. Now take a look at what you're holding today. Is it just a savings account sitting idle? A luxury item bought for the photos? A home purchased on emotion? Or maybe nothing? If you're starting from zero, that's okay. Because you don't have to be rich to start preserving wealth. You need the right mindset and a first step. Pick at least one asset from the 7 we covered. You can't afford real estate yet, but you can invest in a REIT. Maybe a full Apple share is too expensive, but you can start with fractional shares. Maybe you don't trust crypto yet, but you can begin learning and tracking the market with a tiny stake. What matters is that you begin. I used to believe investing was a game for people with money, but then I realized people have money because they invest. Wealth isn't built by luck. It's built by intentional choices repeated over time. They don't get rich overnight. They stay rich for a lifetime. And so can you. Start turning today's stability into tomorrow's freedom. Begin building your own vault of value, not to show off, but to protect the life you truly want to live. Because in the end, the most valuable asset is choice, and you have it right now. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. We post fresh videos daily to help you protect your money, grow wealth, and make smarter financial decisions. Join us, and let's build long-term financial freedom, one day at a time.